And so the end result is that our end users have a nice, easy interface to enter it in. Our stakeholders, the Department of Environment, have a centralized reporting system for managing that, and it paves the way for extending this all the way to 2040 as we reach our goal. So I'm going to pause there. I've got a lot of content, so I'm just gonna leave it there for this application, and we'll take the first couple of questions, Ernest. I don't see any screens, so you just have to call out questions if you have them, Ernest, please.
Will do. The first question is, in addition to your 3 team members, does your team has a Power Platform admin team who watches storage, implement DIP policies, and perform governance, and et cetera?
That is an excellent question, and yes. So the model that we have in the city, and this is what's promoted by Microsoft, is there are 3 tiers. There are the makers. These are people who have some technical ability to learn the Power Apps. There are the engineers, so that's me and my team. We do a more advanced thing, and we enable the makers, which is exactly what we did for this natural gas inventory. They have some technical people. We built the application. I'm in the Department of Technology. What we did is the way it works is that there are these things called environments where your applications live, and they're siloed, which is wonderful. I love this platform because I don't have to deal with logins. I don't have to deal with patching. I don't have to deal with access. I just put the thing in a silo, and then when the natural gas equipment, when it's done, we lift it and shift it to the Department of environment. Sorry, 2 double words there meaning different things, but we put it to the Department of Environment's environment. And those makers, because we built the back end, we've enabled them through training, and through other Microsoft Office hours. Even though I have a team of 3, it's a bigger, wider team, everything from Microsoft to the admins, which is the third element of our kinds of workers. And yes, in DT, we have a dedicated team that does the administration. They do the licensing. They do the software updates. And so, yeah, those 3 makers, kind of the power users or engineers, which I am, and then the admins.
Thank you for that. Another question has been asked around, is the data being filtered? So, if a person that does work for the Asian Art Museum, um, are not that's not tied to the actual business that is required to have access to this information, that
Yeah,
can be filtered to make sure that they don't have access to
yeah.
it. And also, is this dynamically reading the login through Microsoft, so they don't have to actually log in into the app? And so that's something else that was being asked. I'm not sure about the second part, which is the first part of
Oh,
this question. I asked the second part
yeah.
because I thought it was pretty much straightforward. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. First part, yes, indeed. So look up here, and this is the beauty of the Power Platform. Is there's a Power Platform Admin Center where we create roles. There's the built-in rules. I'm an administrator, so I have access to everything. But my users at the Asian Art Museum, we develop in the Power Platform Admin Center. We can create these roles and these teams, and so what we've done kind of as part of our development for the environment, we set up all the roles, and we enable them to then create a team for the Arts Commission, and then we can enable each department to only view their own data. So that's a very important question, and we have the tools, and for some of that's where we need our admin teams. They've given me, I've done enough of it where they've enabled me to do that, so I actually sometimes cross those. But yes, that's a really good question, and you can segregate within the environment. So the whole Dataverse, like for example, in production, I don't have access to their Dataverse um, in their environment, but I have access via the website. But individually, those departments can be filtered down. So that's part 1, and then part 2. Yes, absolutely. That's why I love the Power Platform. Uh, I don't have to deal with. There is a sign in, sign out button here, but when I give the link to any of the users, or anybody gives the link to the users, or when we share, it's super easy to share the application. It's similar Microsoft interface, and they get an email. They click, and then it uses our city's single sign-on. We use Oracle, but because the Microsoft platform and the Oracle platform can talk to each other, they are then authenticated We know when they come to me that they've been authenticated, and then we do the authorization through our teams and our roles and tying it into which set of tables they can view. And as a developer, I'm just so happy I don't have to deal with logins and all that good stuff. So yeah, good question.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, and for the sake of time, the next question I'm gonna hold is it's more of a methodology around ETL and things of that nature. So what I would do is just go ahead and let's push to the next use case, and I'll make sure I ask that question as we
Sure.
wrap. Okay.
All right, very good. Okay. So let's talk about ways we can cost save, and specifically the cities identified that and we've known this for a long time. We've known for a couple of years that we have a lot of unused phones, and we have a group of across the city, like 60 TACs, we call them. They're telecom authorized contacts. These are the people these are city employees who are authorized to go to Verizon or Comcast and order phones and all that good stuff. And so our DT finance team has been gathering, and every month we send out this massive Excel file with all kinds of information, including a sheet for the numbers that are dormant. But the numbers they were not dropping. If anything, they were growing. And when we talked to the tax, they just said, look, the Excel file's huge. I got things to do, and I don't have time to go in and drill down to my department and find the sheet, and then get this long list of things. It's just it wasn't working. So what we did is we built a user-friendly Power App front end, supported by a Power Automate back end that loads the data from the Excel spreadsheet into Dataverse to surface the dormant phones, surface the content, the cost of those, and then more importantly, take action to suspend or disconnect those phone lines directly within the Power App. That last part was really important. It kind of takes us to the finish line. It's one thing to surface it, it's one thing to report it, but for you to save money, you've got to take action to suspend or disconnect. And our benefit is significant cost savings. I blurred out our dormant phone count. This is as of March, the March billing cycle. I blurred out our dormant phone cost. It's basically dormant phone count, which is a big number, times like $39 a month. And then multiply that by 12 for potential annual savings. You can see from the blurred numbers that currently we still have a lot of dormant phones and that we are spending a lot of money still. But let me tell you, we deployed this at the start of our fiscal year last July, 2024. We're not even through the fiscal year, and I can tell you our dormant phone count has already been cut in half. We cut in half the spending of a very, very large monthly cost that's recurring. That savings is forever. And like the last 2 years, we've been incurring these very unnecessary costs. And that's all due exactly to making a user-friendly application where the tax don't have to filter the Excel spreadsheet. They just come here. They can filter. You can see here, and I blurred out the sensitive information, but like who a given phone is assigned to, what the cell number is, what the device is, blah blah blah. Who the carrier is. The carrier is very important. You'll see in the next step. The current billing cycle, how many months that's been dormant. So across my department, I'm okay to share that we currently have 35 dormant phones, and it's costing us, $700 a month. And so there's still, just this one department, some potential annual cost savings. But here's the beauty. Here's the crux of what we do. We can drill down further and then look at this particular thing, whether it's a cradle point or whether it's a printer. I didn't know printers had cell phones in them. And what happens is like the printer or something will get set up. It will want to avail of the cellular features, and then the feature will stop being used. But that $39 a month, month after month after month, year after year after year, multiply that by a whole bunch of printers, multiply that by the entire department. It's a lot of money. So we've made it very, very easy for them to identify, not just the dormant phones, but which ones are costing us the most money. And here's the most important part. Within the application, we have a call to action. And so we can email the device owner. We can exempt the device. There are some exemptions. Our emergency services have dual band. And so a primary one's going to get used day in, day out. But if there's if there's a natural disaster and towers go out, they have a backup one. So we want the ability to exempt those, because the dual band, the second one, they do show up in the reports, but they're false positives. So we enable attacks to exempt those. And then we have, in our case, we have agreements with various vendors for suspension, and our tax, what they like to do is avail of disconnection first, because a lot of our vendors allow us to suspend anywhere from 90 days to indefinitely, and get only charged a penny a month. And so in this case here, and the thing is, and all the vendors, require an email. So the way to disconnect is there is a contact at each of these vendors, and they have a certain format, like Verizon. They specifically want the message subject to be 90-day suspension for a phone number. That's a requirement by Verizon. Sorry, I forgot to bill out a number there. So don't crank call that number, please. So there's but every vendor has different requirements for that. And because we know who the vendor is, we customize the email, and the TAC only just has to come in here, hit initiate suspension. They really don't have to change anything. They just hit the send button, and voila, that problem is taken care of. Savings are immediate. So yay, this is a very popular application in the city right now.
Oh
Question.
yeah, Daniel, just so you know, you're getting a lot of kudos for the design and how you lay things out. There's a really profound appreciation for what you're doing from a design standpoint and for the outcomes that you're getting. One of the questions that was asked a little bit earlier, I just want to make sure we don't get too far away from it, was, do you have a separate data engineering team which manages the data pipelines, such as ETL, ELT type of processes on your team, just to kind of get a sense of how you're organized there?
That's a good question. Like, the short answer is no. Even though some of the bigger projects there are, in this case here, no. We have one person in our DT finance that makes that big Excel file, and my team of three, and we augment with an offshore developer as well. And we have written the flows, all the flows to convert that Excel file into the Dataverse were handwritten by me and my team. We hand design. I've got a great designer who gets credit for all the great design work. Hope that answers the question. So part of our job, and so you're seeing what you're seeing here are Power Apps, but behind the scenes are the Power Automates, which kind of play a part in our ETL, and we build those ourselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other thing that I wanted to kind of double click on is the fact that you said how you had the cost savings that you were able to realize, and it was by being able to take those actions. And it's not just being able to have information go in and manage, but to be able to act on, the different business needs. And so, yeah, I just wanted to, could you just speak a little bit to the taking actions part? I know you spoke to what flows are going on behind the scenes, but just the methodology for your team on, like, how do we effectively scale and do this ongoing and other solutions?
Yeah, that take action part. Nothing will happen unless action is taken, and everybody is busy. Everybody is so busy, and so as we're going to see in the next use case, we're going to make people's lives easier by automating things that they don't have to do as humans. But we're also, where we can, integrate with other systems, to take that action. And this is one example of that. Another example that we have that I'm not showing, across our city. We have 40,000 people, whatever. Everybody who takes time off is required to go through our service now. I won't say everybody, but they can request time off, and we have and then they're supposed to put on like 3 different calendars, and that's a manual process. We've harnessed an API just for ServiceNow to take care of the automation of those other 3, and even if it only saves a few minutes, multiply that by 40,000 people, more cost savings. So that's not really. I don't know if I answered your
No,
question, Ernest.
no, no, this is good. It's good. And the last one for this particular round, it says, does Power Apps provide the ability to log files so that you can keep track of who makes changes to the back end data?
Okay. Here, I do have a pet peeve, Microsoft, and I'm sorry, but the logging is really complex and complicated. We have the ability within the Azure ecosystem, even within the Power App ecosystem, to view like 30 days of history, um, and it's been problematic. And and again, all I want to know in my application is who logged in and what they did. So for a lot of a lot of our applications, and in fact for every application we build now, we write our own logging for just that. When a person logs in, here's the table. When a person uses something, we track that, and then we have a Power BI report that we can then drill down into. And it's not necessarily Microsoft's fault. It's we're such a big organization, and there's a different Azure team, there's a different this other team, there's a different SharePoint team, and the coordination of just getting like who logged in I was pulling my hair out, and I said, forget this. I'm writing my own, and I'll never look back. So maybe someday all those different systems will integrate a little bit better, a little bit easier, with a little bit more flexibility. But until then, we're rolling our own, and that's working for us.
That's good. No, we have a couple more questions, but what I'll ask to do is we're going to push. I'll ask those here at the very end. That's okay.
All right, very good. So we're half past the hour. This is my last use case. So in this problem here, our Department of Technology, we process over 80 telecom and printer vendor invoices every month, and there's a whole team of people involved in that. There's a team that actually download the invoices, these 80 invoices. And they review they review it like for mistakes, pass it off to an approver who in this case Adobe, we use Adobe Acrobat to stamp it, and that's all. And then, which is a very manual process. You have to open the invoice, you got to load your signature, you got to stamp it, and then we pass that off to the payment processors, who then take that into PeopleSoft for voucher creation. And so these are mundane, repetitive tasks, and there's a lot of coordination. There's a ton of email between all these groups. So the way we addressed the solution was, part one, we're just going to automate the invoice download. So at least a human doesn't have to go in there and download them. And at least that's a good part. They love that. And that was the extent. They came to us just asking, can we help with the downloads? And then I realized, kind of talking to them, like they could develop some of the workflow potential in the Power App. And so I'm going to show you both diagrams of what both those processes look like. The benefit is that valuable staff time is freed up to take on tasks that require a human. And because I'm on the automation team, I get friendly ribbing from some of my colleagues. Oh, you're trying to take away our jobs, and I'm like, no, I'm not trying to take away your job. I'm trying to take away the mundane, repetitive tasks that you don't like, so that you can then focus on the tasks that do require a human, that a machine cannot do. And so that's an important selling point here too, because you will get asked that, as we start to use AI in some of these automations. So part one, the invoice lifecycle, we basically we've got all these vendor invoices, and their PDFs. The automation, we basically, the term is record and play. We literally fire up a browser, log in, and credentials are stored in a secure configuration file. The file is downloaded to SharePoint. An automated email goes out to the person, and so they know that, oh, I don't have to go to the website. There's a new invoice there. I can go to process that. And so that's part one. Fast forward a year later, as we've evolved the process, the steps I just called out for you are these first two steps in our vendor invoice lifecycle. So the vendor posts an invoice to a web. We have an RPA, robotic process automation, a Power Flow, we're using Power Automate, that downloads the invoice to SharePoint. The reviewer, the RPA, the automated emails go to them. Okay, and so now the reviewer reviews. So in the kind of the beige color here, this is a human step. And then they can mark it as ready for approval. And then here, the Power App then automatically emails the information from the reviewer to the approver. This used to be an automated email 80 times a month, the reviewer to the approver, attaching the file or whatever, referencing the link. And now the reviewer, they just have to hit a button, approved, and then the automation takes place automatically, letting the approver know. Now the approver has a job of opening the invoice in Adobe Acrobat. Like I said, launching opening up their stamp. This is what a stamp looks like. This is an Adobe Acrobat. Stamping it somewhere on the invoice, and then sending that off to the next step. So we've automated that. Right now, all the approver has to do is say approve. And again, we trained an RPA with record and play. When that happens, open the invoice, grab the stamp. Depending on the vendor again, the invoices are laid out differently. So we have configuration options for where to place that stamp. That's taken care of automatically, and then it goes to the final person who's notified that, okay, here is the approved invoice. Go ahead and go into PeopleSoft, create the voucher, and then in 60 days we'll go ahead and delete the original invoices from here. And then along with that, we have a standalone dashboard that provides the status there. And just a real quick look at what that interface looks like. So we have all those stages I talked about. We have a front end here. So stage one is like here we've got 14 invoices ready for review and download. At the moment, there's none ready for approval, but they would be here if there were any. Steps 3 and 4 are the automation with Adobe Acrobat. If I have time, I'd like to show you the pen input tool, which is another great cost savings option instead of, say, DocuSign, but we use Adobe Acrobat and the pen input tool. And then last stage is acknowledge and waiting for deletion. And then lastly, we have a page where we can get a list of all those invoices that were deleted. And with each of these steps, we have detailed information in tables. I blurred out the sensitive stuff here, or quasi-sensitive, but the point is, this information is surfaced from that Dataverse table in each step of the way. And I don't have a screen here, but let's say the automation happens, but the approver knows that the invoice is due, and they're waiting on the reviewer. Within our interface on the right here, where we have acknowledge, we actually have the ability to automatically resend that automated notice. And in some of the other steps, we also have the ability to rescind the steps. So if an invoice is accidentally approved or stamped, we can actually backtrack through the process to give them a chance to redo the whole process. So that's the last use case.
And this is phenomenal. Thank you again. We have a couple of questions that were listed. One is the amount of work that you're doing to get the requirements to understand how you're going to meet the needs of the business. And
Yeah.
there was a question around that, around the questions that you're asking. Somewhere, what features inside the application were helpful, and was that a long and intentional process of engagement with each of the city staff members that you were talking to? So can you give any insight to your discovery process?
Sure. And this is a good example here where the initial intent was just to download. But as like I've been doing this for decades now, like every project I've ever worked on, first thing, the customer is always right, but the customer needs help being right. That's my ethos about customer service. The customer is always right, but sometimes they need help being right. And what in the context here with app development, we want to gather their needs, and we talk to them, kind of understand what the problem is. But almost inevitably, the customer doesn't know what they want until they see what they don't want. And by that I mean, even though in this case here, this was my suggestion for them, a lot of cases we'll build something like this, something small, and then they'll say, "Oh, can it do this? Can it do that? Can it do the other thing?" Or we'll build a proof. We usually start with the needs assessment. We you know there's patterns are emerging for the kinds of things people need. People need form automation, they need invoice automation, they need process automation. So we get a general idea, kind of share what others have done. We'll do a proof of concept based on what we learned for another department. It sounds good to them on the surface, but when they get into the nitty-gritty details, like this example here is very, very specific to invoice processing for DT. Other departments, might, instead of using Adobe Acrobat, want to use DocuSign, in which case we'll tell them, no, don't use DocuSign, use the pen input tool. And so it's definitely a back and forth. We have to be good listeners. We have to understand their pain points. And so it's a back and forth, always evolving process. Hope that answered the question.
It's great, great. And a follow-up question, or another question here is, where do you host the Power Apps? Do you have a dedicated Microsoft account where those are created, or do you create the Power Apps and flows on your personal city, county account?
That's a really good question. We are a government organization, and so we are on the Microsoft government tenant. So all of our Power Apps live in the cloud in the government tenant. I don't have to deal with servers. I don't have to deal with patching. I'm agnostic about what goes on behind the scenes, and I love that. But all of this is hosted in the cloud on the government tenant. There are some disadvantages in that some of the features are slower to roll out because there are more requirements for a government tenant than the private sector, as there should be. So some of the features are not available. Some of the features are delayed. But we have the governance built in, and the city of San Francisco has specific governance that that our admins work with Microsoft when they stand up these environments. They can implement those governance tools from the get-go. And again, the way the Power Platform works is you have these environments. So my Department of Technology environment, I have an environment where all my apps live, not just this one app, but 3 or 4 or 10 of them. My other departments, will have their own environment, and they're siloed, and so they're protected that way. And again, it's all on the cloud. I don't have to worry about any of it. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah. So we have, we have. So I would like for anybody that has any questions, you feel free to come off mute and ask your question at this point. Since we've gone through all of the solutions, we can move through it that way, if that's fine. Daniel, I know you and I had some conversations around like your strategy,
Yeah.
like getting adoption and things of
Yeah.
that nature,
Yeah.
and how, that was a really intentional format and methodology that you use to get adoption. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think many of our users are probably struggling with some of the
Yeah.
same constraints. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about adoption. Let's talk about the cost related to that. This is a wonderful platform. It's not necessarily free. There are some costs, although I will tell you, if you compare our cost of ownership and our cost of development to some of the vendor costs, like we're building these things for 5 figures, where vendors are giving us 7-figure estimates. The amount of money we're saving is tremendous. But that being said, we do encounter a lot of departments who don't have the money to even do basic licensing. So a basic license is it's less than $5 a month for a per app license. When you pass 3 applications, our users, if we have users who use more than 3 applications, we give them a premium application, which gives them access to an unlimited number. But what we recommend, as our role of encouraging makers, so we have a lot of departments who don't want us to build it. They want to build it themselves, but they don't know how to get started. They're leery of the costs. So we recommend that they start small. You can build these Power Apps in Microsoft Teams. There's an interface for building Power in Teams, delivered and deployed in Teams with a database backend, which is a premium connector. SharePoint is not, but the Dataverse is, and so anything with a Dataverse, like you've seen, requires that user license. But we, but we encourage people like, hey, just kick the tires, build something in the Microsoft Teams interface. We have great training resources. We host a lot of live and in person and over Zoom training. We record them, and then we just ask people to try it out, and then from there, they can then go from the Teams to a web-based app and build an app with SharePoint, which is not a premium connector. It doesn't cost them anything. And then from there, we do encourage them to avail of the entire suite. So in our case, we encourage people to start small and let the platform and the power of the platform speak for itself. And buy-in is easy. This is a popular platform across our city. Ernest, what else? What else related to that we chatted about?
That's great. Yeah, no, I think we also were just saying to the point that you made around how once you had members onboarded and how the premium capabilities was giving them to the ability to run much faster to get to where they, to their objectives and goals was something that you had addressed when we were speaking. And just around the ability also of just managing the different components around assignments and things of that nature, how that became a little bit easier potentially as people were moving into that more mature space for the team. So just something else that I just you and I spoke to as well. So appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll tell you one of our city goals. We are currently below the threshold for when the premium licenses essentially get cut in half, and so kind of what one of our long-term visions is to get our license count and our buy-in to the point where instead of value for 4 apps, all we need is 2 applications, and then that premium license kicks in. Like for $10 a month, you have unlimited access to these premium license. That's an easy sell. That's excellent value for money. So
Yeah.
we acknowledge that budgets are tight, and some people's here's the thing. People come to us and say they have no money, and then we show them the power, and then people are able to find a little bit of money, and it's not a lot of money. It's a little bit of money. And so we promote, we let our actions speak.
Yeah. Now, this has been phenomenal. Just the fact of the matter is 3 makers, developers. I think you mentioned earlier that you all are doing all of this work and have this level of responsibility and reaching out to so many different organizations to be able to help them achieve their objectives and goals. I think is just phenomenal. So I don't know if we have any more questions. Anybody want to come off mute? If not, I can give some time back, but definitely want to thank you for taking the time. The 3 use cases were uh, great and awesome to see. Just having you to speak through them was very helpful. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
my
for your
pleasure.
time. Yes.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate it. Really great to see the impact it's had. Power Platform.
Hey,
Power Platform is powerful. Can I quote you on that?
please do. Yeah, and can I give you a bonus demo? I didn't do any demos. I want to do a little tiny demo here.
Sure.
This is the thing I'm passionate about. This is the pen input tool I was talking. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
You see my screen? Yeah. So
Yes.
the city has DocuSign, and again, no disrespect to DocuSign. It's a great program, and we use it for legal documents all over the place. But because we have it, and because it's so easy to use, we're incurring that $2.29 DocuSign fee all over the place. When we have a department who they check in and they check out devices, and it needs an approval signature, and they're using DocuSign to do the check-in and the check-out of the mobile devices. And that's not a legal document. It's just a track, like who has it, did it come back in, were they authorized to do that? Ditto for training. Oh, my employee wants to take a training, but they need approval. Like, why are we spending $2.29 for that kind of approval when we can use a tool like this? So this is the pen input tool. I'm using my mouse and my cursive isn't that great. And this is our proof of concept here. But what I do is I submit there, and then we capture that signature, and then it creates a snapshot of that. It basically creates a PNG file that we can then embed into the user interface. We can embed that into the Power Report. And so basically what you get here, oh, it's going to make me log in. I'll log in for you if that'll make you happy. I'll defer that. Okay, there we are. So there's my signature. It's a PNG file. We can save that so that they can have it there permanently, or we can do it every time. And again, $2 isn't a lot, but 40,000 people using that tool adds up very, very quickly. So there's another freebie cost savings tip for you that I want you to avail of.
That is excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your time, and
You're
everybody that joined the call. Thank you for your time. We will be sending out the recording, and so we also have another DUG4GOV meetup happening next month, and we'll be joined by the Lower Colorado River Authority team, and they'll be going over their dam and hydro operations maintenance activity tracker. So look forward to seeing that invite come out, and we look forward to you joining the upcoming call. And if we
Thank
don't
you.
Can you
have any other,
clarify a little bit on the where you host your Power Apps? I know you mentioned that you have everything within the county and all that, but I guess my question was, is it living under your personal account, or do you guys set up like a separate account where you're creating those Power Flows, Power Apps, right? So let's say that tomorrow you decide to retire, right?
Yeah.
If all those Power Apps are in your account, like what's going to happen to that? Or do you have a dedicated account where you put all those? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, everything lives in the cloud. Everybody by default has a personal environment where they can do all kinds of research and development, but only use that personal for sandbox. We have departments that we ran into that where a person has developed in their personal environment, and then they leave the city, and what happens is that personal environment goes away when the account is closed. And all you have to do is get your admin to stand up a silo. I call it a silo, but it's called an environment. On some of the screens, you'll see at the bottom right, TIS, which is our department, production. And so we have production and development. So we stand up a development environment and a production environment, and those applications live inside this silo. And then we have pipelines to make that deployment easier. Yeah,
So then practically you're paying for those 2 extra licenses a year, I guess, one where you keep your development and the other one for the production side. Is that right?
Yeah, good question. Because I'm a developer, I have a developer license, so it doesn't cost anything to have the 2 environments. In fact, you could have 100 environments. You're not incurring any cost. You're incurring the cost when you license the users. So me and my developers were premium. We have the premium license. We can build to our heart's content in our development environment without incurring any cost. We click the button, the pipeline deploys it to production, and then we share that application with the users. And unless and until the user actually accepts that invitation and hits it, do they incur that $5 a month? It's less than $5 a month charge. It's a per month, so if they don't use it for a couple months, no charge. And again, if they hit four apps and in the future 2 apps, we put them to a premium license, so that there's no extra charge. I hope that answered.
And to give a little bit more context, is if you have an app that you're going to share, that app is being built in an environment that multiple people has access to, so it's not being created in a personal environment. So just so you know, when you have enterprise level applications that are being built, they're built in environments that will have oversight. There's governance around it, where ownership can be reassigned once someone leaves the organization. So that's not something that you would be worried about for those environments. Yeah.
Ernest, yeah, thank you. I didn't kind of come full circle. You came full circle and answered that. Yeah, and so within these environments, all of our developers, we are all co-owners of the application. In production, we have a service account who owns our production apps. So that if we were all to leave, for example, the service account stays there, and the admin team can re-provision the development environment. But yes,
Thank you.
We are co-owners. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I believe that may conclude our time. And thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you next month, the next DUG4GOV meetup.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you. I know.